First of all, I'd like to welcome you to this presentation of the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. This is one of the many programs that we offer both virtually and in person. And today I'm thrilled to welcome again Melissa Forziat. She is one of our old hands here who has helped us for the past couple of years through the pandemic, and now as things began to return a little bit to normal. Her presentation today will also include some supplemental materials that I will make sure and get to you by email. And so I would like to encourage you, if you're not recognizable by your name first and last in the chat, if you will, either through the Q&A or email me at my UARK address, jpreddy@uark.edu. I will make sure that you get the materials. So I would like to let Melissa just go ahead and take it today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Julie. We'll just do a little quick change here to put my slides up as we get going, and we should be good. First of all, a huge thank you to Julie and Mary Beth and Lindsay and everybody at the ASBTDC in Fayetteville for collaborating. This is actually we're starting another round of marketing presentations. This is the first in a new series that we're beginning that'll go all the way through next year. We'll tell you about what's coming up a little bit later on in this session, probably towards the end, but it's so wonderful to be back. I always love presenting for this group. And today we're going to do a different, slightly new presentation around 20 ways to market your business. So unlike some of my other topics where I'll do deeper dives on specific topics, this is really meant to be a chance for you to brainstorm a lot of different ideas, to think about what could work for your business. So we're going to touch upon a lot of ideas in just a little bit of depth. And then, there will be an opportunity to ask questions towards the end. If there's something that you're thinking, oh, that might work for my business, then we can talk through that a little bit more and see what that might look like for you. And I do want to say, we're going to talk about 20 ways to market your business today, but I am not under the assumption that all 20 are going to work for anyone. For everybody listening, you have different circumstances for your business, and certain things will be more effective than others for you. So we're really looking for you to come away with even a few ideas that you can put in your arsenal and just sort of have them for later. Now, for those who haven't seen me speak before, I'll just start by giving you a quick background on who I am, so you have that context going into this material. So I started out in my career doing major international sport events, which means I worked Olympic Winter Games, I worked Rugby World Cup, I worked with the US Olympic Committee. These are some of the biggest brands in the world, some of the most recognizable brands in the world, and some of the biggest events. And so I sort of cut my teeth looking at these brands that were operating at a huge scale. And then about 10 years ago, I started my own business. Melissa Forziat Events and Marketing is a micro business, like I'm sure many of you have as well. And I had to figure out, how do you take these great principles of marketing that I learned at an Olympic level and make them work for a business that looked like mine, a business that didn't have anywhere near those resources. And yet you still have to be effective in getting out there and telling people about what you do. So for me, it's about getting really creative with and practical with the resources that you actually have. And that's where a presentation like this comes in, because I'm always thinking about unique ways to get in front of people and, for myself or for my clients, and make sure that you're connecting the message with the people you need to within the resources that you have. So that's the philosophy we'll be going with today. A few quick housekeeping items before we jump in. So although, everybody here is on mute, I do encourage you to minimize distractions on your end to make sure that you're getting the most out of this that you can. So if the ringer is on your phone, or if there's a messaging device on in the background, this is a good time to shut that down to make sure that you can focus as much as possible. The more you're thinking about your business as we go through, the more you'll get from this. Now, in this presentation, we'll have these slides available to you. I've sent those off to Julie, and we'll make sure that we get those out to all of you if you need them after this. And again, a lot of these slides are just going to be like a quick, here's an idea, and we'll talk through it a bit more after that. So there's a recording that Julie's got going here as well, and hopefully that will be available to you afterwards. And then in terms of questions, so we'll save time for questions at the end. And I encourage you, if you haven't had a chance, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat, introduce what your business is so we know everybody's found it. Make sure that you've set the chat so that everyone can see your message. And that way we can all have conversations with each other. And if you have questions later on, there's also that Q&A button at the end. So between Julie and me, we'll be monitoring those two things for you. Okay, so here's what we'll talk about today. First of all, I do like to set the stage by just sharing some realities of the business community and business community building. And that just kind of lays the foundation of some of the things that we're all dealing with. And then we're going to talk about 3 different categories of ways to generate leads. So we'll talk a little bit about advertising and event opportunities. Then we're going to talk about partnership marketing types of strategies. And then lastly, we'll talk about building brand ambassadors and some of the ways that you can do that for your business. And I will say that with these 3 categories, you will find that you can potentially make an argument why some of the things that I'm slotting into one could work in more than one of these categories. And just for the purposes of making sure we've got a bucket for each thing, I've broken them up into these categories, but you may very well find that there's some hybrid ideas in there. And that's fine. Again, creativity is what this is all about. So we strive to get ideas that tick multiple boxes at once. Now, are you in the right place? I'm sure you have a lot that you can be doing for your business right now. So what are you going to get from this presentation? Well, first of all, this material is for you if you're looking for ways to market your business. If you're just looking for ideas, what are some new strategies that you might start workshopping to see how it can work for your business? We're going to brainstorm those today. But also, this material is for you if you're thinking of ways to create a community around your business. I'm a huge believer in putting relationships at the center of marketing. And you'll see that a lot of these ideas do that and help you build relationships with one contact or with multiple contacts all at the same time. And then lastly, this material is also for you if you want to find ways to stoke word of mouth. A lot of people, a lot of business owners, applaud word of mouth as the best type of marketing. And I do think word of mouth is good, but it's not passive. The more that you're doing to get people talking about your business, the more people will be talking about your business. So I want you thinking, how can you make that an active process? And that's something that can layer into a lot of these ideas that we're going to talk about today. All right, so if all of that sounds good to you, you're in the right place. Let's jump in and let's talk about 20 ways to market your business. Okay, first things first, like I said, let's set the foundation here. Let's set the stage for realities of business community building that many of us may be dealing with. I want to make sure you understand, what types of businesses the ideas we'll be presenting today are actually for. So one thing I want to point out, and I always think this is a really interesting fun fact. Did you know that about 90% of all US businesses are what we would call micro businesses? This would be under 10 employees. Now here I've got this definition as 1 to 9 employees, but we certainly know that there are businesses out there such as sole proprietorships or single owner LLCs that might have 0 employees and still be a functional business. So about 90% of all US businesses fall into this category, whereas the Small Business Administration actually defines small business as any business under 500 employees. So that's actually a really big spread in that small business category. And by focusing in on this micro business category, we're really talking about the smallest of the small businesses. And I'm just curious, who here has a micro business? Go ahead and share in the chat if this describes your business. Let's say under 10 employees, and that can also be 0 employees officially in your business. I can tell you that I have one in this category. So it'd be interesting to see if that bears out in this group as well. If you do have a micro business, just know that there are things that we'll talk about today that you can implement with a business of your size. And so far, we've got a few people jumping in and saying they have a micro business. So, maybe we'll get up to that 90%. I mean, it looks like we're getting pretty close to it now. So that seems to be bearing out in this group. This presentation is still for you. I'm going to be suggesting things that are doable within your range. Now, I have to say, one of the things that I just like to point out when talking to so many micro businesses at once is it can feel pretty lonely. It can feel like you're very much in a silo. I have found that as somebody who works with a lot of different types of micro business owners or micro business marketers, a lot of times we're all dealing with the same challenges, but not talking with each other about it. So you may think, oh, I'm the only one that business is this difficult for. And in reality, everybody is trying to figure out exactly how to fight the same challenges, the same problems. Everybody's trying to figure out how to market their business. It's not, most of us do not go viral overnight. It's a constant effort to tell people about what you do while operating your business. And so, marketing is a whole task of its own, while you may be wearing many different hats, trying to do many different things for your business. So if you feel like you came here because you wanted ideas for marketing and you don't feel good about the fact that marketing isn't rolling like a great machine in your business, the norm, and we're here just to come up with ideas to arm you with new possibilities moving forward. It's not about feeling bad that it's not going the way you want it to. It's about remembering that marketing is about always just making sure people know that your business is there. It's about telling people what you do, and that's a forever activity for your business. So the more you can wrap your head around the idea of that consistency and that need for consistency, the more productive you can be with it long term. Now, today, we're going to talk about a few different categories of marketing ideas for lead generation. And we're going to bucket a few into advertising and event opportunities. We're going to bucket some into partnership marketing, and we'll bucket the rest into brand ambassadors. And again, you may find that some ideas cross over into more than one category. But let's jump in with the first one, advertising and event opportunities. Now, I understand that when you're a micro business owner, you don't necessarily have much, if any, budget for marketing. So there may be some ideas here, especially more of the event ones, where there is a potential cost for them. And so if that's not something that's possible for you right now, you want to keep listening for the other categories where we talk about things that can be done within a lower budget. And some of these ideas will be more available to you as you have more budget to spend. But I wanted to give you a whole range of ideas to work with here that can be done with creativity, with low resources if need be. The first one I wanted to mention here, and I grouped a few into this category, basically passive listings and directories of all sorts. So walking guides would potentially be good for brick and mortar businesses that have a physical location and are on a natural walking path in your community. Directories, you don't necessarily have to have a brick and mortar for that. Directories can also include service businesses, for example. And then online marketplaces tend to work better for businesses that have an e-commerce component. And the great thing about a listing in those places is that again, it's something that if you put yourself in there once, whoever's looking at those directories may come upon your business listing later. And so it gives you potentially that kind of exposure, but it can also be a really good place to hunt for partnerships when we get to that second category of partnership marketing opportunities. You can use these types of resources to shop for the partners you want to build relationships with. So I encourage you to think about the many different ways that you can use resources like this. Are there resources like this available to you in your community that you're not taking advantage of right now? That may be something that you look for, especially as you start moving into the new year. Now, we're going to get into a bunch of different event opportunity categories here. So let's think about all the different ways you can create a backdrop to talk about your business. One of the things I like about different types of events is that events are really long campaigns that you can squeeze a lot out of for your brand. So if you can get a good event on the calendar, you could be talking about it for sometimes months before the event starts, and you can talk about it after the event is over. And you can use the event as an opportunity to gather content and things to say for the months in the future. So when I think about events, I think about this opportunity to talk about your business as much as possible within the context of this campaign that you're running. One example of a campaign that you could potentially run is something like having a wine or beer tasting. Let's say you have a physical location for your business. You could potentially have a happy hour. Something like this would require usually like a one-day banquet license, or the ability to actually be able to serve alcohol on premises, but it can be a reason to gather people into your location. If you aren't interested in going that route, you could have other types of food or drink that don't require the beverage license to make them happen. And this gives you a reason to bring people in. Now, if you're looking for a similar idea, but without the food, or without that being the center of the idea, art walks or art displays are something that businesses can use. Again, this tends to be good for businesses with a physical location. Art walks tend to be something that's more community wide. So you'll see if multiple businesses in an area have art displays that are going on, that'll become a reason for people to come to the whole community and visit multiple businesses. But if you don't have the opportunity to hook together with multiple businesses, you also could develop a relationship with an artist and have art on display on the walls of your property and your property alone. And I've found some businesses will actually rotate this out. They'll have a new artist every month. So they're not only building relationships with that artist's community and finding ways to tap into multiple artists' community across the year, but they're also potentially attracting people who want to see art displays. And so you're just finding new ways to build community around your business, even if the art itself is unrelated to the thing you sell. Now, another idea is a meet and greet. And this is about sitting down and thinking, who in our community would be a draw for people to meet this person, that you could potentially start building the relationship with that person, and you could build an event around that. Let's call them an influencer of some sort. It can be somebody who's a hyper-local influencer or somebody with a wider footprint. It could be somebody who has something to do with the business community. If you're trying to get a B2B audience, a business-to-business audience to attend or to get to know your business as the host of this event. If it's something that's for, if your business is meant to target a B2C audience, a business to consumer audience, then you might not look for somebody who's politically invested in the business community. You might be looking for somebody who has a wider appeal to the community at large. So this kind of thing, and I will say, if you don't have a physical location for your business, you can still run something like this. You could partner with a business that does have a physical location, or you could find a location that you rent for the day or the night, and you can bring this person in, and you organizing this as the host is what puts you at the center of this. So this idea is accessible for so many different kinds of businesses, if you think about how you would leverage something like that. Now, let's talk about a few ideas that are perhaps less in-person event-based, but can be leveraged online as well. So something like the idea of a discount day. I'm going to have a few different campaign ideas that I mention here, but discount days it can be for a holiday, or it can be not for a holiday. It can be for something that you've built around your own business. And it's something that you can promote in advance and let people know that this is the day to come shop at your business. And this can be both online and offline. Now, another example of this, a slight tweak, a variation of that last idea, is a free sample day. And, it's this idea that people are going to be able to come, they'll get a free sample. Maybe some of those people will buy something on site, but it definitely puts your business kind of on the map. Now, you could execute something like this online, and you can also do something like this in person. I remember when I was in college, there was a Ben and Jerry's that was on that college hill, and every year they would do a free sample day, and it would be absolutely swarmed. Everybody knew where that Ben and Jerry's was, and they got a lot of community support the rest of the year because they did a day like this. Again, that's an example of a physical location, a business with a physical location that leveraged that idea, but you could do something like this online. It could be a day where with whatever purchase, they'll get something for free, and that'll be part of the hook of getting people to your shop. I will say, with ideas like the discount days or with ideas like the free sample days, you want to make sure this works within your bottom line. So run the numbers and make sure that you're able to execute on something like this before you offer this. If you are not, we have plenty of other ideas that we'll mention today, but this can work if it does work within your bottom line. Now, another, we'll call this a variation of those last two ideas, this idea of a nonprofit day. You could build a relationship, a partnership with a local nonprofit that you want to support, or that perhaps has a similar target market to your business. And you could make a whole day of saying, anybody who comes, on behalf of this nonprofit, you're going to get this discount, or maybe a percentage of that purchase goes back to the nonprofit. You can work out different relationships with the nonprofit itself. But if you've discussed this with the nonprofit, let's say their development director beforehand, you can build that relationship, you can both promote it, and they can ultimately bring their audience to it. And so that can be something that helps generate brand new traffic for your business and helps connect you with a good cause. So this may be something that you think about as well. And then, if all of that was a bit too specific or too complex, there is just hosting a networking event. And again, if you have a physical location for your business, great, you could do it at your physical location. If you don't, you can be the host of an event like this, a networking event, at some other location, at somebody else's business that you partner with, or at some venue that you rent. So these are all different event ideas that I want you to think about if this is something that could be right for you. Like I said, the great thing about events is that you put something on the calendar that gives you opportunities to talk about it for months, potentially months before and months after it's over. And that gives you a lot of marketing opportunity within one campaign. Some of the other ideas that we talk about will be less complex and also quicker to execute, and you may not get as much opportunity to sort of squeeze every last drop out of the idea. But everything has its positives and negatives. So I started with some of these more complex ideas. And, when you're thinking about that, just remember, be really upfront about your budget and the resources that you have to do something like this. And that may help you figure out, well, how do I need to streamline this so I can stay within those means? Sometimes creating those partnerships, which is going to be the next thing we talk about, is a way to make sure you're balancing your own resources wisely and, leveraging another business, their resources as well, to help you get something across the line. So let's talk about some of these partnership marketing ideas. And again, all those events are potential opportunities for partnership, but there are certainly plenty of other things that can go into this category, and we're going to talk about those here. But first, what is partnership marketing? What does that even mean? It's an idea that I happen to love for micro businesses. I love it for all types of businesses, because I believe that every business out there can probably collaborate with some other business or influencer where they can both benefit in some way. And partnerships can look like a lot of different things, but corporations can partner, nonprofits can partner, micro businesses can partner, and you can find ways to partner with businesses that don't even look like yours. So what does partnership marketing actually mean? This is not about getting into a legal agreement. It's not about creating a joint venture or signing on the dotted line and writing up a contract. It's about looking another business owner in the eye and saying, hey, we both have a similar audience we're trying to reach. Can we help each other do that in some way? Can we boost each other's voice in some way? It could be that you're helping each other reach new people in your desired audience, or it could be that you're helping to reinforce the message that you're already sending to an overlapping audience. Either way, it's still of benefit to both of you if if you're smart about who you target those relationships with. Because at the end of the day, even if you're reaching brand new people, that's great. New people have now heard about each of your businesses. If there's overlap, that reinforcement of a message actually goes a long way in helping to validate each of your businesses. So no downsides to this, as long as you do have that inherent trust in each other's business. Now, when it comes to building partnerships, the steps that I would go through on something like this, first of all, I would be thinking about who would be the right fit for a partnership for your specific business. Are there businesses out there that are reaching a similar audience, or reaching an audience that you want to break into? Are there businesses that are hyper local to yours and you want to make sure that they know that you're there? Are there businesses that are actually competitor businesses, but you'd like to build a strong relationship there to make sure you've got that overflow business opportunity for each other? Or you want to sort of stay on top of current events together, or carve out a little alliance in your marketplace? There are a lot of different ideas of what a good partnership could look like. So start by knowing who you want to target. Really think about, and this might be a place where you look back at some of those directories and you start shopping for the businesses that sound like there is a reason for you to be connected. Start making a list of those, and you can always then, number 2, propose your common business interests. You don't have to both have the same exact goal. For example, if I went to a potential partner business and I said, I'd like to get more leads. And then that person came to me and said, okay, well, I actually want to get one specific lead. I think you have a connection in this area that I'd love for you to make an introduction for me. Well, that's not having the same goal, but if we can both help each other in some way with it, then that can be a good relationship. So propose what those common business interests are. And if there is an ability to support each other there, then define what kind of support would make an impact. Actually figure out how we're going to get this done. How would we execute this? I can make an introduction for you if you're willing to put a feature in your next newsletter on my business. Great. Well, we've both offered different things that are meaningful to each of us. So it's really about looking for a win-win relationship, something that's collaborative, that you're both going to get something from. So if you think about that as the foundation of what we're calling partnership marketing, there's so many ways to do that. It's about putting the relationship at the center. And then once you have a good relationship with another business, you can find so many different ways to collaborate with each other and hopefully market on each other's behalf. And you can pull from many of these different 20 ideas as you experiment with new techniques moving forward, because that relationship will always stay strong if you keep that at the center. Now, what are some ideas that you can leverage? Obviously, we talked about a bunch of event ideas in the first section that can be great opportunities for partnerships. Let's look at some ideas that aren't necessarily events, that maybe are more online. So first of all, something like guest blogging is a really interesting opportunity. If you're both doing blogs for your own business, if you have space for that on your website, why not open this up for another business to contribute their thoughts and educate your audience and put their perspective for your audience? That's good both for the partner and for you, because you've got this new content that's going onto your website, and potentially that's attracting new people on its own. And it's also, just adding to that credibility for the partner business who did the guest blog. So this can be a great thing all around. And, you can do an exchange in this way where, both businesses are getting something like this if you wanted to. Now, we've also got newsletter features, which, if I have an audience of 1,000 people on my newsletter list and you have an audience of 1,000 people on your newsletter list, and we both, in our next newsletter are going to do a spotlight on each other's businesses, well, we both just reached 1,000 more people. And, it didn't have to cost a penny to do that. It's just the time that it takes to do the spotlight. Now, if you really liked an idea like this, or if you liked an idea like the guest blogs, you could decide a cadence. So you could say, for example, I want to do a newsletter feature once a month for another business, or a blog feature, once a month for another business. And then that gives you potentially 12 relationships that you can build across the year. So what if every single other business had 1,000 people on their newsletter list? Well, think about how many more people that's exposing to your business at the end of 12 exchanges like this. So this is an idea that, again, doesn't have to cost any money at all, but can give you significantly more reach and really help sort of vet you with a whole new audience, because somebody else they trust is actually sharing that content on your behalf. Now, another idea like this is social media engagement. You could lock eyes with another business and you could say, hey, why don't we both have social media accounts? Why don't we engage with each other's content on a regular basis so that we are helping to boost each other's reach on social media, and so that people can see that there's this community support on each of our pages. And this is something that you can do maybe steadily over time. It's something that you could do as a long-term relationship, whereas something like a newsletter feature, maybe you do it once and then you have to sit down back at the drawing board and say, what should we do next? This could be something that you do long-term. Now, a nuanced idea here is working with each other to do something like using special hashtags, or having a themed month where you use a theme to keep a conversation going. This is something that I've seen done within industries. I know, like, I think the American Zoo Association does a really good job with this. For a while, every year they were doing like whole themed campaigns where they would get a lot of PR behind it, and it would all be about, sharing pictures of great, cool animals, or, they would leverage what they had within the whole network of zoos. You can do something like this within an industry, or you can do something like this with a theme that different types of businesses can still attach to. So it might be a theme that makes sense specifically in your community, or it may be something you make up. But it's really about saying, we're going to create the backdrop for this conversation. We're going to get as many business voices into this conversation as possible. And we're going to try to hook in as many new people with this conversation as we possibly can. Now, another idea, and this is especially good for businesses that have a physical location, this idea of leave behinds. Here's a stack of business cards or rack cards or postcards with a discount on them just for your business. And as long as that business has space, they can display that. But you can also do something like this online. You could create a resources page on your website, and you could just have links and little descriptions of some of the businesses that you want to support. So you can do that, and that's helpful to those businesses as well. They're getting those backlinks, and you're also creating that space for them. So you can leverage this idea whether or not you have a physical location. Now, here's one that's a little bit more complicated, but is really interesting if you've got like a number of businesses that you want to collaborate with. So let's say you had half a dozen businesses that all want to get into some sort of campaign together. Some people will do things like scavenger hunts when they've got that many people, but this is a nuanced idea. This idea of loop giveaways is basically saying, okay, at the end of the day, if somebody goes to each of our businesses, they are going to be eligible for a possible giveaway. But when we execute this, we're not going to say, go to all 6 businesses. Business A is going to say, make sure you go to business B. Business B is going to say, hey, make sure you go to business C, C to D, D to E, however many businesses. Your job is to basically market the people who visited you to go to the next business. And so you're putting your attention into talking about one business, but because you've created a loop, you're all going to get touched at some point along the way. And at the end, the last person will swing back around to the front. And once somebody has visited all the businesses, they're still eligible for that giveaway. But it's more about saying we're going to concentrate our marketing efforts not on all of the businesses in this loop, but on the next business in this loop. Whereas a scavenger hunt, it's sort of like, let's talk about all the businesses. Let's talk about all the locations. So there are a couple different ideas that you can play with there, but they both basically amount to the same thing of getting a whole bunch of businesses together and making sure people visit all of them, whether it's a physical location or their online presence. Now, something probably we're getting increasingly complex with the partnership marketing ideas here. Another one would be joint offerings. So if you're sitting there thinking, every time somebody needs this thing that I sell, they're also going to need this thing that you sell. So it could be something where you then immediately encourage them to go to that next location and get that next thing. Or it could be something where you co-market together and make sure people are aware that you both have a piece of what they need in order to get something done. I think about this sometimes, for example, with like when I started my business, what are some of the things that I needed when I got started? And this might be true for you as well. I needed a bank account. I had tax questions. I had legal questions that I needed. And it would have been so much easier for me if a banker, a lawyer, and an accountant had like a one-stop shop that they could help me with all of my questions, or they could pass questions along to each other, or just provide a referral for the person who could answer the next question. Nobody really had that set up for me. So I had to do all the legwork and make sure I was getting all of my questions answered independently. But, how much easier would it have been if somebody could have just said, oh, okay, you know what, you're at this part of the process. I've got a person who can answer that if you want me to make a call. That would have made it so much easier. So think about, what you sell, and if there's a natural relationship with something else, similar to when you're shopping online. If you go to like, any search engine based e-commerce platform where they'll show you customers also bought, or other recommended items that's them basically giving you ideas of what else you need, and you can create that kind of idea for your business as well. Okay, the most complicated version of partnership marketing is probably a co-hosted event. So any of those event ideas that we mentioned up front, you can do that better with a friend. You can share planning responsibilities with a partner, and you can both invite your audiences to it so that you get a reduced workload and more impact. The more partners you can bring into the mix, the more potential people that will be aware of the event. And then at some point, you need to make sure that everybody understands their logistic responsibility in the process. But I would say, this section, these partnership marketing ideas, escalated from probably lowest level of commitment or easiest things to execute to the most complex. And there's this whole range in the middle to give you ideas to work from. Now, I do want to make sure we save plenty of time for questions. So I'm just going to touch on this last category before we break. And this last category is this idea of leveraging brand ambassadors. for your business, people who are going to be willing to be out in the world talking about your business. And this is that idea of word of mouth. But I think a lot of times business owners think about word of mouth as something that's passive. Oh, how great is it? This person just came to me knowing about my business, ready to buy something. That sometimes happens, but it'll happen a lot more if you are greasing the wheels for it. So if you think about creating brand ambassadors for your business and giving people a means of talking about your business, you're probably going to see more of that actually happening for you. So I want you to remember that your clients, your customers, your stakeholders, whoever those people are, they're all potentially part of your referral network. They're all people who can be sharing the word about your business if you give them something to say, because you've either planted the words or you've given them a symbol or something they can show on behalf of your business. So we'll talk about some of those ideas here, but it all goes into this circuit, this sort of web of it's a chain of events that you want to create here. So like if a brand new lead sees somebody else validating your business or sees some sort of, this proof of the reputation of your business. Okay, so they've now seen it. They start to believe in the business's reputation, maybe because they saw something like that once, or they saw it many times, or they heard from somebody they really trust. So they've seen the social proof. They're starting to believe in it. They think okay, that could make sense, and I kind of need that product or service. And so now they take a chance. They walk into that business establishment, they go to the website, maybe they decide to buy something from the business. Now this new lead is now a customer. They have had an experience with your business. And so if they were happy, they might vouch for your business. And as a business owner, you're going to want to share whenever somebody vouches for your business, so that social proof is getting the widest reach possible. And hopefully now it's going to be seen again by new leads. And we just keep circling around in this process over and over and over again until more and more people have seen or become aware of your business. So this is, again, this idea of creating brand ambassadors, people who are going to and want to talk about what's happening with your business so that more people can be reached. Now, here's some ideas that you can potentially leverage for this. One is the idea of, let's say, like a monthly photo contest or monthly photo highlights. People can share, this can be crowdsourced. People can share experiences with your business or experiences with your product or service. So you can leverage this whether you're online or offline. But it's potentially an opportunity for the buyers, people who are stakeholders, to share their experiences with your business and then have you share that out to a wider network. And something like this can become a blog. Something like this can go out in newsletters. So there's a lot of ways to leverage content like this, but it's ultimately something that's attaching other people's opinion and other people's validation of your business directly at the source. Now, another thing that you could potentially do, and these are a few different ideas, but they all kind of have the same bucket: gifting and recognition for important moments. Now, it could be that you do something for when people hit hard times. This is also basically a PR story of the way that you're supporting your community. It could be that you're honoring achievements of your customers or your clients or your stakeholders, and you're doing that again with a gift or some sort of recognition. It could be anniversaries. Maybe when people celebrate the 1-year anniversary of being a customer with you, or maybe it's their birthday. Any opportunity there is to acknowledge somebody. Not all of these ideas will work for every business, but if there's something here that works for you and you can build that, if you can actually build that into your budget, whether it be you have a nice gift or a little card. I will say that if it's something those people want to display or share on social media or talk about, then you're going to get probably longer lasting reward for it, because more and more people will be aware, oh, this gift was from this business. If they're displaying it, they're just automatically making everybody aware. So think about what that looks like for you. Again, budget is a factor for this. So make sure that it works, whatever you're doing works within your bottom line. But this is an opportunity for you to really nurture your community, build one-to-one relationships that over time can have a lot more lasting impact. Something that may be more obvious and maybe something that we're more naturally inclined to think of is testimonials, or in this case, client or customer interviews or features. We're going to have both of those things separately itemized here. So interviews or features would be an opportunity for you to get directly in front of a client or a customer. You could have a standard interview format if you wanted to, where they're getting highlighted or spotlighted with the answers to the questions. Or it could be that you've done another format for doing a feature on them. It could be that you've done a case study for their growth or their experience with you. These are all different ways to really put their story at the center for your business. And if you find the right people for something like this, they may be very proud to then share that content themselves. So you could publish something like this as a blog, or you could put it in a newsletter, you could share it on social media, and you're ultimately asking the client or customer to be proud of this feature or interview, and they may want to share it out as well. So this becomes a story that you're inherently building in a new audience because you're spotlighting somebody specific. And then, testimonials is a variation of that idea, but, something that perhaps is a little bit less involved. So this is really about asking people to share their experiences and then having a plan for where that's going to go. I will say, if you're going to do testimonials, I encourage you to get specific about the question that you ask. Because if you say, please share a testimonial about my business, you could get, this business is great. And that's not very informative. So you can also plant questions that you want people to answer in their testimonials. You can say, I would love to get a review about our business. Make sure you share with future potential customers, like what your situation was before and what your experience was with the business, or what work you did with me. You can plant some of those ideas so that they can write ultimately a better, more informative testimonial, because at the end of the day, they're educating somebody else just like them of what that person could potentially get by working with or buying something from your business. So these are 20 different ideas. You'll see there certainly was some overlap here. And there are some ideas that you may think about, oh, can I mix and match? Can I combine some of these ideas to get more from all the things that I'm doing? I encourage you to think creatively like that, because marketing, if you can use multiple strategies at once, you're probably going to get more from every campaign that you do. So I want to make sure that we save enough time for questions. I imagine some of you may want to think through some ideas that are resonating for your business. So here's a reminder of some of the things that we talked about today. We talked about some of the realities of business community building. Then we had probably the largest volume of ideas in the advertising and event opportunities category, between directories and all those different types of events. Then we talked about partnership marketing. We talked about a lot of online ideas in the partnership marketing category. And then brand ambassadors, that was a range of ideas as well, but it was really about finding different ways to stoke the word of mouth. So feel free to get your questions in so that we can start addressing those with the time that we have left. As you do that, a quick reminder, here's some things coming up. So the next presentation that we're going to do on October 18th, it's going to be a 1.5 hour presentation. We're going to talk about boosting holiday sales with partnership marketing. That's going to be a presentation very much about referral marketing and partnership marketing, building word of mouth, building those relationships in greater detail. And that can be something that you leverage around the holidays to make sure you're getting just the most reach you can with your holiday campaigns. We've also got a number of ideas that we've got earmarked for topics coming up in 2023, still working on setting the dates for those, but we'll talk about smart principles of marketing messaging. We'll talk about how to win at social media, even with no budget. We'll repeat this presentation in May. And then in July, we've got one coming up on create a profitable marketing strategy, which is all about lead retention and customer retention. So those are some of the sessions that we've got coming up. And I'll make sure to take questions now. Just a reminder, I want to make sure Julie gets to jump in here at some point. If you do feel like you want to work through any of these ideas, we encourage you to book some time with an advisor at the ASBTDC, and I have the link up here so that you can do that. So Julie, do you want to mention anything about that before I take questions?
Absolutely. And as Melissa mentioned, we at the ASBTDC are a one-stop shop for various small business needs. Whether you have an idea and are just really starting to think through a business idea, we have consultants that can help you with that, all the way across the spectrum to actually selling a business. We have a lot of resources on our website that Melissa has up here at sbtdc.uark.edu. We have a resource library where you will find this presentation posted by tomorrow, along with previous presentations in marketing by Melissa, but also various recordings on marketing, finance, technology that you can use to answer questions that you have and to gain greater knowledge. We have specifically for anyone on this webinar right now who is interested in starting a business in Arkansas, we have an upcoming in-person 2-hour training on October the 18th at our Bentonville location at the University of Arkansas Collaborative. So I would encourage you to go onto the website, check out the events page, and register for that if that is something that works for you. So again, in order to, if you're not already a client with the Small Business Center, we would love to help you. And we have 5 consultants that are experts in various finance, starting a business, marketing, that can help you. So do check out the website for those resources that can help answer questions, or the events page where you can learn more about what we offer for the remainder of the fall.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We do have a question from Izzy, which is such a good question, and I'm very glad you asked this. Which type of marketing strategy would you say is the most beneficial for a business startup? Curious, of the people listening, how many people here are in this category? Do we have any other startups who are listening in here? Feel free to pop into the chat. Let us know if that meets the description. Okay, we've got a couple. So here's what I would say. Oh, so many. Great. So thank you extra, Izzy, for asking that question. So one of the things I like about this presentation is that you'll see that there's this range of ideas that you can apply at different stages of your business. In some cases, you might say there are some ideas that are easier to implement at the startup phase, and then you'll have access to other opportunities later. You might say the same thing about budget. If you start with lower budget, but then you grow your budget later, that may give you access to different ideas within the 20 that we mentioned here. So if you're in a startup and you don't have a big audience yet, and you're trying to build that, I would start with some of the things that you can do solo. So I would make sure that you're getting blog content onto your website. I would make sure that you're creating a newsletter list, that you're building your email list, or if you're text marketing, that you're building your phone number base. I would look at, social media is something that you can start filtering in as you have time to do that, to grow your email list and to grow the audience of people who are checking out your content. And as you start to build your audience, you're going to find that you start having more carrots to dangle to future partners. If you try to start a partnership conversation when you've got no audience, there may be some people willing to have it with you, but there are going to be more people willing to have it when you have more of an audience to bring to the table. So I would start with some of the things that you can do on your own, and then quickly start to find ways to bring people into it as you can. It helps to have a little of that momentum first as you go to, and also, you know, some of the event ideas may be a little bit more complex to execute when you don't have an audience yet. But again, if you're a startup, start with some of those things that you can do to begin to build your sphere, and then quickly start to fold in some other people as you can. And look for creative ways to show what you bring to the table in those conversations and in those relationships. So hopefully that gives you some ideas to start with there. And then as we were going, I kind of highlighted which ideas are the most complex. And I would say that'll be maybe the furthest away from where you are now, but a really good thing to aspire to or to bring to the table with future partnerships. So what a great question. And I'm so glad to see so many startups here jumping into this conversation. This is a great time for you to be thinking about ideas of different ways you can market your business, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of things that you can do to get the word out. And hopefully this arms you with some of those possibilities up front that you can start working through. Very good. Let's see. Do we have any questions in Q&A, Julie? Probably covered them, I think. And don't be shy, we have a couple minutes left if anybody does have anything they want to work through for their business. But if not, Julie's been working on the recording of this, and we have the slide deck that we can also give you so that you can work through some of these ideas on your own as well. Hopefully everybody comes away with at least one thing. In fact, I would love if you came away with even one idea that you're immediately thinking, okay, I want to try this out. Put in the chat what feels most realistic to you for where you are in the business that you're operating right now. Let's see if there's any trends with it. But you don't have to have the same answer as everybody else either. So what was the most relevant idea for you to implement right away coming out of this? And otherwise, I think we've covered it, Julie. Let's see. Kevin's jumping in, the newsletter feature. I just love doing things like that. It costs $0. And it's amazing how much additional reach you can get with one good partner. And that validation goes such a long way as well. And Izzy's also saying the blogs or the newsletters. Peach, you also liked the idea of the free sample days. That can be a really fun one. Again, watch your bottom line with it, make sure that it works with the numbers, but free sample days can be a really interesting way to attract a new audience. Jill, joint offerings, free samples. Oh, I would so love for people to come out of this with ideas for how to make joint offerings work, because there often are things that people need on the back of buying what you sell. So it's like, if you can build that in to the conversation, it's a great thing for your partner business. And that can also work in your favor if they're doing the same thing for you. So I love it. We've got totally different ideas that are landing for different people, which is the beauty of having 20 different ideas. I think, Julie, I think we've covered it.
Yes, if no one has any other questions, then I'm going to share a final word with you. And here we go. These are the ways that you can contact us at the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. We would love to help you. And with as many startups as we've had here today, I would really encourage you to take a look at joining the Starting a Business in Arkansas in-person, not a webinar, in-person offering in October. Really appreciate you joining us today, and we'll look forward to Melissa's next presentation and see everybody then, hopefully. Thank you, and goodbye for today.
Thank you, everyone.